All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So the second practice of New York Jets training camp is officially in the books, and in this one, I wanted to break it down. So I think overall, the sense from today's practice, according to numerous reporters, was that the offense had a pretty tough day. Whether it was a lot of incompletions, whether it was defensive ends getting in the backfield, supposedly the running back and the wide receiver positions both had a lot of drops. It just seemed like there wasn't a lot of success offensively. And real quick, by the way, to kind of take a step back and look at it from a macro perspective, these videos aren't to, overreact over, one given play or one given drive, a touchdown pass here, or, if you flip it and look at it from a negative, like an interception there. It's more so recapping the practice in general. If you're anything like me, you just, like a diehard football fan, you just want to know what's happening at these practices. Of course, we have to take everything with a grain of salt, understanding that it's, again, the second day of practice, still in the early portion of training camp. I mean, these guys aren't even wearing pads. No tackling allowed. Now, if we're seeing, issues 5 weeks into the season, right, throughout practice, and that's carrying over into games, okay, yeah, it's going to be an issue then. But again, these videos are mainly just trying to recap what is going on at practice so far. And, of course, in the early portion of training camp, whether it's the Jets or not, the offense is typically behind, especially if we're looking at a team like the Jets, where you have a new offensive coordinator in Hackett, and with that comes a new system, a new play caller, and multiple coaches along with Hackett, with Keith Carter and Todd Downing. There's going to be somewhat of a learning curve. There might be speed bumps along the way. You factor in a new quarterback, new weapons, some positional battles on the offensive line, and of course, going up against a stacked defense that was A, dominant last year, and then B, it's been a gelled unit. Right, these guys know each other. Sauce, C.J. Mosley, Quentin Williams on the inside, Carl Lawson. There's not many major shifts or changes on the defensive side of the football, and the system has been in place. Ulbrich has been in place for going into year 3 here. So of course there's going to be more continuity on the defensive side of the football. But of course, at this point in time, whether we're talking about the Jets or whoever you want to throw out, the Saints, the Commanders, the Panthers, there's always going to be somewhat of a bigger hill to climb for the offense as opposed to the defense. But with that said, it did look like today, according to multiple reporters here, it did sound like the Jets offense pretty much struggled throughout the day. There were a couple bright spots, and we're going to get into it. But no, in the end, I think the Jets ended up having to do push-ups again on the offensive side of the football. But here's the deal. Robert Saleh actually addressed this in the press conference after the game, where he said that this is expected, right? And kind of going back to the points that we made before, it's not shocking. Nobody in the Jets organization is shocked looking at the offense struggling with the dropped passes and whatnot. There is going to be some growing pains along the way. Now, one bit of news that I did come across was that Will McDonald did not practice today, and he was wearing a sleeve on his leg. So just something to monitor there. But shifting away from some of the negative stuff and into some of the positive, according to multiple reporters, it does look like Aaron Rodgers just, throwing the football is same old Aaron, right? The effortless throwing motion, just the quick flick of the wrist, and the ball is out. Definitely a lot of positive buzz in that regard. And that's always super cool, right? I mean, if you've been watching Aaron Rodgers throughout his career, you know how, I mean, it's like poetry in motion, right? With Aaron Rodgers just flinging the football down the field. It looks like he's not even trying at all. In some cases, his feet are literally off the ground, especially with how efficient the upper body is. So that's been on full display so far. Now, another really interesting point, which was made by Dennis Waszak, he said that Michael Carter has been getting a lot of snaps early and has been looking pretty good, and even referenced him potentially having a bounce back season. And right now, running back is a bit of a question mark, although Breece Hall, the expectation, should be back by week 1. And according to where we stand right now, again, early in camp, everything is full go. Everything is as expected. There hasn't been a setback. There hasn't been any sort of weird things going on. Everything seems to be pointing up, and that's flat out awesome. But whether Breece is healthy or not to start the season, I still like Michael Carter a lot. Just his ability to make guys miss, his shiftiness with the ball, his ability to catch passes and hurt teams out of the backfield as more of a receiving back. There's definitely a role in this team for a guy like Carter, and I hope that Carter bounces back. Right? Of course, we didn't really get the season that we wanted last year from him, but at the end of the day, Carter is still a young player with a high upside, and we've seen him play at a high level before. To me, I'm hoping for nothing but the best with Michael Carter, and this was probably my favorite thing that I saw today, which was just, he's looking good, and supposedly the Jets coaches are giving him tons of opportunities early on with the first team to make plays. Another positive is wide receiver Jason Brownlee. Now, of course, yesterday the Jets did bring in Alex Erickson, former Bengal, former Washington Commander, which just adds to the room, it adds to the competition, but this is why camp is a thing, right? More competition, the better. Get these guys in the building. There has been a lot of positive stuff going around surrounding Brownlee, whether it was when the Jets initially signed him out of Southern Miss, his resume with the Golden Eagles. He was really productive, and you also project him into the NFL from a physical standpoint. He checks a lot of boxes, being that bigger frame, the big target. Maybe he could be a red zone guy, or a red zone target rather. But apparently Brownlee made a really, really nice play working with Rodgers, and then afterwards A-Rod went over, congratulated him a little bit, and the point was made that A-Rod has been talking a lot to Brownlee this offseason, right? So just, feeding him information. I think when you look at the wide receiver room right now, obviously the Jets have a lot of names on paper. I think we're pretty solid there, but to trade away a guy in Denzel Mims this early in the process for, a conditional 6th-round pick, it begs the question. The buzz around Brownlee is real. He has been turning heads. He has been making plays throughout, the short time that he's been a Jet. But it's still encouraging. I mean, you love the undrafted free agent stories. I mean, we experienced it with Robbie Anderson. Totally cool. Just coming in, undrafted free agent, and making plays throughout camp, throughout preseason, and ultimately making the roster and making an impact in his first couple seasons with the Jets. So I do think it's going to be harder to obviously crack the starting lineup and whatnot, but in the case of Jason Brownlee, I'm excited that he's a Jet. I'm happy that he's here, and it's even cooler that he's making an impact already in a portion where it's difficult to get your skill set out there, right? I mean, you have tons of guys all over the place. Everybody's competing for a spot here. This isn't preseason where you're working in like the third and fourth quarter going up against, third stringers and other guys, defenders that are trying to make the team, and you're just getting a lot of passes thrown your way. In this portion of camp, if we have a guy like this who has the physical skill set, who has the college resume, and he's making plays, and Rodgers is, taking the time, taking the effort to work with him, I think that is nothing but positive stuff. And last but not least, Robert Saleh did confirm that next Tuesday is going to be the first practice with pads, so that should be really, really exciting. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game is coming up. It's the first week of August with the Cleveland Browns. And then Saleh did also touch on the Aaron Rodgers comments that he made earlier regarding his future. Of course, nothing is guaranteed about a potential, 2-3 year commitment or Rodgers calling it quits after a season. The door's still open on it, but as of right now, according to Rodgers, it seems like if his body is good to go, he is not looking at this as some one and done type of thing. He actually said it would be a disservice, understanding what the Jets gave up to go out and acquire him, knowing, the talent on this roster, alluded to a lot of the younger talent being on rookie contracts. He said that in yesterday's presser. So I think for Jets fans right now, it's just encouraging, right? It gets you excited because Aaron does not have to go down this route. He does not have to, talk about the future, speculate about him playing. He could shut it down immediately. There's nothing stopping him from doing that. So with Saleh kind of doubling down on that, it's just, I mean, that's exactly what you want to hear at this point in time. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.